I'm Jasmine Sky, and today for F-Stop Lounge, I'm interviewing the one and only Sue Bryce. Sue is a master glamour photographer who's based in LA. She needs no introduction, really. I mean, she has taught and inspired photographers all over the world and has made glamour photography fashionable again. I'm going to start with my favourite 5 questions.
Yay.
All right, so I kind of feel like I know some of the answers to this, but this is for everyone. So
Sure.
What was your career path and how did you go from being an aspiring photographer to doing it full-time as a career?
I got employed as a retoucher. So I was already in the industry at 18. My mother was a retoucher. She taught me. I bought a camera the same day I got the job as a retoucher because all of the retouchers I worked with back then were photographers. And I started shooting everything that moved. And then one of the clients that was a client to the retouching room asked me to work in their studio. And by the time I was 22, I was an employed photographer. So I was really lucky in the sense, in the olden days, 1990, that I was paid to turn up and take photographs in a portrait studio, wedding portrait studio.
Yep.
And I did that for nearly 12 years before I owned my own business and went out on my own. So by the time I went out on my own, I already had a body of work that was really good. So I didn't have to kind of struggle through the trying to be in business and trying to learn photography at the same time. I had already built my folio, although I was learning Photoshop on the computer because it was starting to become a thing. And I was also transitioning from medium format film to 35mm digital, which at the turn of the century was really bad. And so I was going backwards in my shooting because of the change in technology.
Yeah,
and so I spent the first half in digital and, you know, the first half analog, second half digital. So it was a really big shift anyway in what I had to do.
Yep.
And learn.
Yeah. Okay, and what is your favourite lens, gear that you can't live without, use every shoot?
5D Mark III. Yeah, I love it. It films. I can do education. I can shoot with it. It's so second nature to me. I have 2 lenses. My primary lens would be 50-1.2 and 35-1.4. I had a kit lens when I started my business, 24-105 kit lens with a 10D that didn't even shoot RAW. I've had every Canon camera up till the 5D3, and I just trialed the 5DS, and that will be my next purchase. So but the kit lens was really good for the first sort of 10 years, but then I progressed to the, the 50mm when it came out at 1.2. It's just beautiful glass, so that's what I shoot with.
Yep, I love the 50.
Yeah.
And okay, so what's the best advice that you have been given in your career?
2 things that I think back to when I was young that senior photographers were telling me. One was, this is how much I cost. These are your beautiful portraits. What would you like to purchase? What would you like to order? And then don't talk. That really taught me to shut up and just sell my work instead of talking myself out of it. And then the second one was probably what's in it for me. So that came from a really great photographer in Melbourne called Robert Piccoli. And he just said to me, as you progress in business, I want you to always hold in your mind what's in it for me. And if somebody asks you to do something for free, which they will, then you just need to say, well, what's in it for me? There's always an exchange. There's always, somebody can always give you something, even if it's an introduction to somebody else or something for free. And if they can't pay you, they can always exchange something, but just not to give it away. And he taught me that. And I feel like I still think that to this day. And Robert probably told me that in 2002.
Yep.
It still stays with me, and I still teach that.
Yeah, it's great.
What's
advice.
in it for me? Yeah.
I like that.
Also, you don't feel like when you're doing things for free and you're building your folio and you're learning, you often feel like people are taking advantage of you. But if you exchange for something, even if it's a database or an intro or
Shooting
design,
what you
then you feel like you're getting paid in a way, and it helps shift your own value. I think that's really important. Yeah, instead of just feeling like they're getting a free ride, you're working for nothing.
Yep.
That's not a good energy.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. Okay, so what photographers have been the biggest influence on you?
maybe late 90s, Herb Ritts, definitely natural light fashion, and the 90s supermodels that were really extraordinary glamour without being edgy fashion. Annie Leibovitz, of course, I love her. Robert Piccoli, he's a great man and a great educator and a great photographer. Anybody who combines photography with business, because ultimately I was the poor artist that had to learn how to get paid. So that probably taught me the most of those people. And just anybody willing to educate, quality education around real business really impacted me, because they really taught me that I could have a studio where I got paid and it was a sustainable income. Like anybody who teaches that, like I try and teach that more than I try and teach posing or shooting, because ultimately if you're not getting paid you can't sustain yourself. So that probably had the biggest impact, but the others were more inspiration, I suppose. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so in your opinion, what makes a good photograph stand out from the average?
Connection. Yeah. I don't care too much about surrounds unless you're shooting landscape or fine art. For me, a portrait is the connection you have with the eyes on the person. And you can make fundamental posing mistakes, but if there's connection, it's going to sell and people love it. And my work has maybe a lot of technical mistakes, always has, because I've always gone for connection over hands or connection over, a shoulder, but connection is everything. And if you can connect to the person and really see them and then take a great photo of them, it's all in the eyes. So to me, it's where it is, and it's really the fundamental of the way I shoot portrait.
Yeah, no, you can definitely see that in your work. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so name 3 things that make your heart flutter with excitement.
In life,
doesn't have to be photography related.
Spending time with people. It's definitely my love language. Time spent and talking to people, educating and talking to people blows my mind, because not just inspiring but teaching something. I love watching people learn and absorb and then go and do it and change something. Movies, I love movies and books. Movies over books. I've always read myself to sleep, but movies for me are visual, and I just love movies. I love action movies because they're just a lot of visual stimulus, and I don't watch TV. I just love movies. I watch movies. I buy movies and I watch them 10, 12 times. I love watching how people are directed, and I love the connection to real actors, and that I don't believe, when I feel that they're not acting, I think
you believe them,
I'm lost in movies. I would watch movies. I would do it for free, and I would educate for free. People always say, what would you do for free tomorrow? I would teach, I would talk, I would do movies, and probably, shooting portrait for me still makes my heart flutter. Definitely as I've gotten older as a photographer, I tend to shoot more the way I want to shoot than how maybe other people wanted me to shoot them, and I've definitely moved into my own style and own that, so I do enjoy that. I love learning new stuff and experiencing it, maybe experimenting with it and then making it work, and then I enjoy that after 26 years I can still go to another level in my photography. Like, I always try to be better than I was, and sometimes I plateau for a long time and then I'll jump up a level and I know I've mastered something, and that feels incredible still, which means I'm still doing the right thing, I think.
Yeah, never stop learning.
Yeah, if you don't feel it, you should move on. Yeah.
Okay, so funniest and scariest photographer moments in your career?
Funniest, scary.
I have some stories.
Oh my gosh, some I can't tell. But,
yeah, fair enough.
Scary is I was shooting a client up on a ladder and I fell backwards onto my posing boxes, and she just happened to be a nurse. So she administered first aid. I didn't hurt myself. I was humiliated. I was winded, and I smashed a big $10,000 Hasselblad and lens on the concrete ground, and it was Christmas Eve, last shoot of the year. So that was years ago. That would be my scariest. Funniest is, oh my God, I've seen it all. I don't know. Here's this for funny. It's ironic funny. I was photographing this woman and her grown-up daughter, and they were telling me about this. The daughter was like, saw the back of the camera, and she was like, oh, these are so much better than we had photos done years ago, and they were so bad. And she was telling me about this nightmare shoot she had, and what they didn't realize is it was me. I had photographed their family.
Goodness.
And it wasn't until she kept talking that she mentioned that she did a very unique job, and I just suddenly realized. And then I
Did
realized.
they realize?
No, because I don't think they realized, but I'm sure that they would have been very embarrassed had they realized it was me, and I just pretended. I was like, but I had been 26 at the time. This was 10 years later, and I'd matured and
obviously taking better photos than them.
And I remembered their shoot as being really good. So she was like, I hated them. They were on our wall forever. And I was like, oh, it was me. But you learn and grow.
Yep, you do. Okay, so if you could go back in time and give yourself advice, what would you say?
It's not about you. You don't have to try so hard to be noticed. You just have to give service. Value what you do so you get paid earlier. I would have had lots of houses by now. It's enjoy it. Photograph less of what you hate and more of what you love. The money just comes. You'll spend a lot of years thinking it doesn't, and you really got to walk towards what you want and just explore and be open to learning, and don't get caught up in the ego of the industry. Just be a good business person, a good service provider, and connect, because your clients will pay you, and it's a joy.
Yep.
Yeah, what I tell every photographer.
I've heard it a few times, but every time you say it,
I know,
I'm
yes. That's it. That's the secret.
All right, can you think of an image or two that is your absolute favourite that you've taken, and why do these stand out in your mind?
I don't know why. When I take a good shot, I love my shots. If I do a particularly good shoot, I load it onto my phone, and when I wake up in the morning, I look at it first thing, and I just look at my work, and I fall in love with it. I really fall in love with shooting it and what I created. I don't think I'm awesome. I think I did a great job. I learned something and I created something. If I go back in my mind, I have some signature shots that, there's a girl with freckles that I photographed maybe late 90s. I still see that shot, and it's relevant today. There's a lot of work from the 90s that I shot on film that I've scanned that I think is relevant today. There's 2 images on my new website that I photographed 15, 16 years ago that still look like my today work. So they're timeless to me.
And they stand out in your mind because, the pose is great, or the lighting's great, or it just all works all together.
Maybe because I learned something, and I remember going to a next level and being really proud. So maybe it's significant of going up a level and seeing myself as maturing as a photographer. And so I kind of saw it and went, wow, I'm getting there.
It, yep.
I'm getting this. Yeah, this is,
Yep. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Oh, you know what? I won highest scoring print in Australia in 2009 with an image I retouched the day my grandmother died. And it was a really significant image. I called it Mother Earth, of tree roots growing out of a nude. And it was probably the craziest thing I've ever done, and it's still a beautiful image to me. It's very controversial because most people are scared by it or don't like it. So it's an image that comes up and people are like, ooh, that's scary to me.
Gives them a feeling,
which I like, because, I would rather people hate my work than be yawning looking at it. So it should be controversial. It's an awards image, and it means a lot to me personally, so that probably comes up. Also, I don't feel the need to win awards or create like that to win awards anymore, so I'm not doing that fine art work anymore. And I just don't feel a need to do it. If my heart wanted to do it, I'd be doing more of them. So it's an era in my life that I no longer
feel you need to do.
Yeah. So I think of that.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have recently launched your new website.
I have.
I know about it, but tell the Lounge audience all about it, what it is.
It's a subscription site, education on contemporary portrait. You can watch me shoot, retouch, style, make backdrops, paint bodies, pose, sell, price yourself, value yourself. It's everything Sue Bryce.
Yep.
It's $25 a month and you can leave whenever you like. I just want to build an education base. I've already built an education base of photographers around the world that are shooting my genre that just need support and growth and education and connection. And all of the connection right now is happening on Facebook. And it's free, and you can't run a business and spend 5 days a week on Facebook. So I brought the education site back to my site. I kept it cheap because I want it to be something, if you feel like you need to leave, you can leave, and if you don't, there's just new content coming on all the time. You can critique your images. Convocation is an internal blog. So it's just one of those things that, you know, it's there. And
we'll put the link below the video for those wanting to know what it is. But
it's wonderful. It's like, it's everything I do, and I love it. And people are learning all around the world, and watching people go from nothing to shooting contemporary portrait or glamour is just so neat. And watching their average sale go from 400 to 2,000, the reveal wall, it's great.
Yep.
I never thought I would enjoy education the way I have, and I really enjoy it. But I've got to keep shooting, so I've got to, otherwise you're not relevant. You've got to be relevant, you've got to change, you've got to grow. You can't just do education. And also you've got to get paid being a photographer, because it keeps you relevant in the market. What do the market really want to buy? Like, everyone says people just want a CD. That's not true. People just want their images now. So I started doing reveals, and now people are tripling their sales. That proves that it's not a CD generation. I don't want my audience to dictate how I get paid. I want to give them product, but I do need to stay relevant. Had I not been shooting, I wouldn't have experienced that. And I don't think you could integrate reveal wall if I wasn't doing it, because how would I know it really worked? So watching people do that has been extraordinary.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time out from the Baby
Thanks.
Summit. It's been great to chat with you.
Awesome.
And I'm really enjoying listening to your talks.
Great.
And finding it really inspiring. So thank you.
Awesome.
And thanks for being on Lounge. Bye.
Bye.